Hello, hello, and welcome to another episode of Questions for Peggy. So excited to have you here today. Thank you for stopping by. And as always, I'm always excited to do these videos because whenever you guys ask me questions, I generally will do a deep dive and do some research and check my facts. And I love learning and I love to pass on the learning. And when I am doing these videos, I'm hoping to give you some simple, sustainable strategies that are going to work and that are going to stick. Let me know in the comments if you have any questions and if this is even making any sense. So I spoke with someone this week about they were struggling with having some pain in their kidneys, and they were like, it's been like 6 months ago I passed a kidney stone, and we all have heard, if you haven't had it before, we've all heard, I haven't, thankfully, that kidney stones can be very, very painful. So I'm going today to talk a little bit about some important points about the kidney, what might contribute to kidney stones, and some ways that we can alleviate and prevent problems with your kidney. So whether or not you're someone that struggles with kidneys, but there should be a lot of really good information in here, even if you're not dealing with kidney problems. So jump on in with me. So first of all, whenever I am doing these videos, I want to make sure that I'm clear that I am not your provider, but I am offering some potential interventions that could work with you, but always check with your provider before making any changes in your health plan. So before I get into the kidney, I want to start with the liver and basic digestion. Because when we eat, and we all know this, our food enters through the digestive tract, and nutrients, amino acids, fatty acids, etc., are carried in the blood and passed along to the liver. And so the liver breaks down harmful substances and excretes them into the bile and into the blood. And from there, and there are quite a few mechanisms of action, but I'm simplifying this for today. The kidneys will then filter the harmful substances from the blood, and that's what's excreted into the urine. And so I'm going to pause for a moment because we want to know, like, how do we know if we're properly hydrated and have good kidney function? So we should be urinating about every 2 hours while awake. And that goes for you, your kiddos, etc. I recommend half of our body weight in ounces of water daily. So once you can figure that out, it's going to make a big difference for your health and your kidney health, your energy. It's amazing for how many people really benefit from that little tiny piece of information. So a few things do bypass the liver and get filtered primarily by the kidney. And one of those things is a mycotoxin called ochratoxin. This is very common as it's found in our food. It's highly associated with grains and cereals. It's in our coffee, in grapes and wine, in nuts, dried fruits, some spices, and meat, especially the grain-fed animals. It's also found in the air, in soil, and in water-damaged buildings or homes. And I mention this today because I've known several people with significant kidney problems, and it can look different in everyone, that were struggling with mycotoxins in their environment, and they didn't make the connection. So, when your body's talking to you, there are going to be a lot of things in this video that I want you to look at, okay? So what is a kidney stone? So they're coming from oxalates or uric acids. So we're going to want you to limit the oxalates you're exposed to. And oxalates are usually found in a lot of nuts like almonds and peanuts, spinach, sweet potatoes, cassava, tapioca, kiwi, grains, beet greens, beans, soy, chocolate, Swiss chard. And those are just to name a few. So familiarize yourself with some of these. And these are very commonly known as pretty healthy foods. However, I recommend to people to sort of write down what you're eating, and we can look for some trends in the foods. And if your symptoms are fluctuating after eating certain things, that will give you some clues. These oxalates can create like a pseudo gout. So you would have symptoms of gout, but it's actually not gout. The oxalates make this happen. So, if we have too much salt in our diet, it can release too much calcium from the kidneys. And so when you reduce the salt, we might get better, but we can also increase the potassium. So we're looking for the right ratio of potassium and sodium. So if you are a heavy salt user, you could reduce that and see if that helps some of your symptoms. So the oxalates, kind of like the pseudo gout, it can migrate and cause pain where there's a weak area in the body. So maybe someplace you've had an injury before, if you had a kidney problem, if you are affected by oxalates, it could be that the oxalates are agitating that or irritating it. And so you can have these symptoms and they may look like arthritis. With or without kidney damage, it can look like arthritis because these oxalates will be deposited in the synovial fluid in your joints or even in an organ like the thyroid. So if you eat a lot of those foods, it's something to consider for yourself, and you can rule that out. And high, levels of oxalates can also contribute to malabsorption in the gut, especially fats. And the fats then bind with the calcium, which the calcium usually binds up the oxalates and like helps to get rid of them. So we want the calcium to bind to the oxalates. If you're low on calcium, the oxalates may be causing problems in your body. But if you are not absorbing your fats properly, the fats combine with the calcium, and then the oxalates are kind of free radicals, and those are then causing problems in the kidney. So it's all about balance, and this is where the nutritional aspect really comes into play. So if you are eating high oxalate foods, it's actually recommended to consume calcium with them, or potentially taking a calcium supplement if you're not. So in a urine test, you may see excessive calcium, you may see uric acid and oxalates, and you may see your citrates being low in the urine test. Citrus binds with oxalate and lowers your risk of kidney stones. And I do want to have a little caveat there. Sometimes we're taking high doses of vitamin C, like when we had the pandemic. Like there are a lot of people that were taking like mega doses of vitamin C. But sometimes if we're taking too much C, it can cause similar symptoms. So if you're one of those people who have been taking high doses of C suddenly, it might be worth it to reduce that intake and see if that also helps. So lemons, so this is a little bit different than just taking vitamin C. Lemons are alkaline. And this is one way to counter gout symptoms and protect the kidney. The lemons are have potassium, and they help alkalize the urine. Some people are concerned about potassium for the kidneys because somehow that's out there in the world. But what I've learned is that only if you're like stage 5 or end stage kidney disease is potassium potentially a problem. So, but again, if there's a potassium issue and balance in your system, this is why you should talk to your provider before jumping into any specific treatments. Another tip is apple cider vinegar in warm water in the morning can prevent stones. And so add lemon to it. Now, we want to sort of reduce the salt for, kidney stones or kidney problems. However, I really like to put a pinch of some good quality, pink Himalayan salt or kosher salt in there. And it really does make it taste nice. And it helps to replenish some of the minerals that we've lost overnight. So, however, studies are showing, and I saw this like a couple times in the last 24 hours, so I feel like it's important that I mention this, that I'm going to say 85%, and my number could be a little bit off there. 85% of salt on the market contains microplastics. And so this is a big burden to your liver and your kidneys. So if you are using salt in your home, find a certified plastic-free salt. And so I did talk a little bit about how much water you should consume, but in a way, one of the ways we want to protect the kidney is consuming, for the average person who's around 160, 180 pounds, we're talking about 2.5 to 3 liters of filtered water daily. So 80 to 90 ounces of water. And I just say, pick a favorite, cup or a glass and figure out how many ounces are in it and how many of those you need to consume. And so I like starting off my morning with like getting down. One of my favorite glasses, I don't have it right here, is like 22 ounces. And I like to just get one of those down, and then a nice tea mug full of the warm water with the lemon and apple cider vinegar in there first thing in the morning. And you're getting out a whole bunch of those ounces right out of the way. I would consider filtering your drinking water and your showering water if you haven't already. You've heard me talk about clean air, clean food, clean water. Have your water tested regularly, especially if you're having kidney issues. So we don't know what's in there that may be burdening your kidneys further. So avoid high oxalate foods, as I mentioned earlier, and add calcium to it to counter it if you are consuming those things. Low carb and ketogenic diet and intermittent fasting are really an excellent way to be eating to protect your kidneys, because we don't want too much. Fructose is really bad, but sugars in general, I'm going to talk in a minute about sugar and the impact on the kidneys. We want high antioxidants and phytonutrients. So something like microgreens could be really good for you. They'll be like really super high. They really pack a punch, super high levels of those antioxidants and phytonutrients. I like spirulina, for example, but like things like broccoli sprouts, they have some nice microgreens. You could find them right in the grocery store and just throw them on your salad, throw them on top of your food, as it's coming out of the pan or out of the oven. You can just throw some right on top, and it's a big win. And I did learn that those sprouts are better for you if they were grown in soil versus, I'm not sure if they're water or air grown. I'm not exactly sure, but it's just a little side note there. So diabetes, going back to the sugar, diabetes is the #1 cause of end-stage kidney disease. So avoiding sugar will go a long way to protect your kidneys. Sugar and starches cause oxidation in the body, and it creates more havoc for your kidneys. So if someone were to have like what they call cystic kidneys, the cysts, when they test them out, they tend to consist of glucose and water, and they become dependent on the glucose. So having a low carb diet, and I'm saying like only having your carbs come from vegetables and fruit, as opposed to adding the simple carbs, the pastas and the grains. So having that be your primary source of carbs makes a big difference, and intermittent fasting can help a lot as well. So other things to avoid for your kidney health: alcohol, NSAIDs like pain meds like ibuprofen and aspirin, prednisone, antibiotics, heavy metals, food dyes, phosphorus beverages like soda, and other toxins will add burden to your liver. When your liver is overburdened, your kidney is then more burdened. So some beauty products, cleaning chemicals, detergents, your deodorant and toothpaste, etc., can all add more harm over time. I saw a study with mice, and they were looking at a certain hair cream, and they tested it on these mice, and within 24 hours, they had kidney failure. And so the accumulation of these products caused crystal deposits throughout the kidney tubules. So I recommend using ewg.org to start looking up these things in your home. And their free app is called Healthy Living. and they have a scale of 0 to 10, 10 being the most harmful. So what I've done is I will go around my home and take a Sharpie and just start marking everything based on the rating scales. And so when it's time to replace that, let's say it's your lotion or your laundry soap or your dish soap. And so when it's time to replace that, just find a much less toxic product. And it's a really simple way to start making a difference in your home, and it really starts to add up. There's very simple shifts that you can make that barely feel any pain from this. So some of your labs may show your elevated BUN and protein in your urine, and your creatinine might be off as well. Those will all indicate that your kidneys are not handling proteins well. This is usually only a problem if your kidneys aren't healthy. So usually a lot of protein is not a problem. In many of my videos, you're going to hear me talking about protein, because most of us aren't consuming enough protein. So if you are having those levels in your blood work, consider, reducing a little bit, if you are heavy on the protein, like reducing your protein intake to like 6 or 7 ounces at a time for a meal, especially if there's protein in your urine. But usually these protein numbers will show up if you're consuming too much sugar or you're exercising too much, because there really is too much exercise. So think about the good quality meat, like I was talking about earlier. If we're eating grain-fed beef or grain-fed food that are filled with ochratoxins, we're going to be consuming that, and our body is further burdened. So consider adding wild-caught fish of different seafoods and good quality eggs as another protein source, and rotate them in. Try to shake it up and change it up a little bit. I saw another study with kids that had kidney conditions, and after 4 weeks just 4 weeks, which was mind-blowing, on a gluten-free, dairy-free diet, they had reduced inflammation. Their kidney injury markers had significantly reduced. Their immune markers were significantly improved, and their microbiome shifted toward a more healthy, balanced bacteria. So I was really impressed with that. And there's a lot to be said for gluten-free, dairy-free diet and giving that a shot, even if it's for a period of time, to give your body a rest and help boost your immune system. It can really go a long way. So what are some specific things that you can do? And some of these will be review, but I'm kind of put them all in a list if you want to write some of them down. So what to do? Number 1, reduce exposure. Eliminate the plastic in your life for cooking, for reheating, your cutting boards. It's amazing how much plastic we're just putting in our body over and over, and it's such a burden, especially on the kidneys, and trying to eliminate that from your body. Filter your water. Test your home, your air, and your water. Glyphosate, I haven't talked about that today, but that's another burden on your liver and kidney. So that's the stuff that they spray on our foods. So we really want to try to lean towards organic foods. And if you go to ewg.org, they will identify some of the foods that you should prioritize eating organic. So maybe not every food will be organic, but at least some of them will reduce some of that pesticide exposure in your body. Do the warm water with lemon and apple cider vinegar and a pinch of salt every morning, and do that before your coffee. Include some probiotic foods like kefir, yogurt, kimchi, sauerkraut. There are a couple probiotics that are specific to the kidneys. One's Lactobacillus casei, C-A-S-E-I, and then Bifidobacterium longum, L-O-N-G-U-M. And those two are a couple of strains that are really nice for the kidneys. High quality extra virgin olive oil is great for kidney stones. Drink more tea. Not necessarily caffeinated, but teas are really good for polyphenols, like green tea. And some of the green teas are caffeinated, but you can have some decaffeinated green tea, or some naturally decaffeinated black tea is good too. Some nettle tea, dandelion tea are great for your kidneys, and turmeric tea as well. Foods with quercetin are very anti-inflammatory, such as with red and white onions. Some colorful berries like blueberries and raspberries, and add some magnesium glycinate, at least 400 milligrams daily. Pumpkin seeds are a pretty good source of magnesium, but we usually can't get enough magnesium in our diet to meet the requirements that our body needs. Here are some great kidney foods: asparagus, celery, bell peppers, cabbage, cauliflower, garlic. And if it were me suffering from kidney stones, I would, if I were doing my intermittent fasting, and which I'm going to talk about next, before I would eat, I would start with a nice green juice, and I would probably do the asparagus, the celery, the cabbage, maybe throw in some cucumbers in there. Just some good old-fashioned celery juice would go a long way. Cabbage juice is really good for the kidneys. So that would be really helpful for your body. Okay, and so the last thing I really want to focus on is intermittent fasting. It really gives your body a chance to recover and heal rather than constant digesting. And I talk about this, I have a lot of clients, one of my practices that, a lot of older adults, and they're like, I was always taught several small meals a day. But what happens is that's an old way of thinking, because if your body's digesting, it's not healing and recovering. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about how to think about doing this intermittent fasting. So figure out what your normal eating times are and start there. Okay, so let's say you usually eat dinner around 6 o'clock and you're done by 7. Okay, well, if you wake up at 7, you already have 12 hours of fasting under your belt. So that really is very nice. So if you do start your morning with coffee and cream and sugar, that is considered breaking the fast, and it will affect your blood sugar, which we know absolutely affects your kidneys, okay? So instead, what you could do is start with your warm apple cider vinegar beverage concoction, lemon concoction, and delay the coffee. You could make a really big difference. So if you could push that out, so if you're 12 hours at 7 a.m., if you could go 8, 9, 10, push it out to three more hours, potentially have your first cup of coffee at 10 instead, that would be, you'd already be at 15 hours of fasting, and that would be fantastic. And so you can start there, and then you can play with it a little bit. You might start trying to eat, finish eating at night a little bit earlier. And then, it depends on what time works for you. So make it work for you. Some people like to do their intermittent fasting. So pick your eating window is the one way to look at it. Okay, I'm going to eat between this hour and this hour. And you can start your coffee right at the beginning of your timed eating. So try for 16, 8, 16 hours of fasting, 8 hours of eating. You could do 17, 7, you could do 18 and 6, but somewhere in there, but just start. You can, if it's just 12 hours, that you're starting, that's fine, but you might push it out to 13 hours of fasting, and so just lean into it and wean yourself into it, if you will. And once you're doing well with that, because we're all in different places, some of us kind of naturally do it, but when you're really intentional about it, it seems to be really helpful. Once you're doing that, you can try a more extended fast, like once a week. So, you can try to push it to 24 hours if you want. And it's amazing. People feel great. They exercise while they're fasting, and they feel excellent. You just drink clear liquids, and you're not going to die. You're not going to starve. And if your body's already used to doing intermittent fasting, you can push it out, and it works really well. So I hope you found the video helpful, and please leave your comments. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and keep sending me your questions. I love doing these videos for you guys, and take care. We'll talk soon. Love you. Bye.